So this is a sheet of watercolour cardstock from my 8x8 Junk and Disorderly art journal. I'm going to have a play with my Distress Crayons today, mainly because I just don't play with them enough. I've also gone through my ephemera collection and pulled out some bits and pieces from, I think it's the thrift shop set. There's also a couple of pieces that were just lying around in my ephemera drawer as well, which I wanted to use. So I've got these that I'm going to incorporate into my art journal page, and I've also pulled out a quote or a phrase to add to my art journal using the alpha chips. These are the ones that look like ransom note letters. Again, these are from Tim Holtz and Ideology, so it's kind of a Tim Holtzy art journal page, so it's going to be a bit vintage, a bit grungy. My main focal image, and I've had in my collage stash for ages and I haven't used him, so I thought I would use him today. So this was the front cover from a vintage knitting pattern from probably the 60s or late 50s, and he's going to sit down here in the corner of my page once I've added all the ephemera bits and pieces to it. So I'm going to be using matte medium, so I'm going to stick everything down with matte medium. Once everything's down, even before I add any colour, I'm then going to go over everything with a coat of clear gesso, mainly to get rid of that shine you see on the back or on the front of this piece of ephemera. So there are a few bits and pieces that I've got shine on them and I don't really like it. So I'm going to get rid of that shine. So the step is we're going to stick everything down, go over with gesso, and then I'm going to apply some colour, apply some colour, put my teeth in properly, some colour using the Distress Crayons to finish off. So that's the plan. For a change, I actually have one, and I have an idea in my mind exactly how I want the page to look, again, for a change. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So all I'm going to do is just start sticking down these bits of ephemera. So this is going to be a little bit of a boring process of literally me sticking bits of paper down onto my watercolour cardstock. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop it onto a fast forward, not too fast, I think I'll only do it double speed, and pop on some music so you can be entertained while I'm gluing down. Everything's now dry to the touch, and as you can see there is no real shine on any of the laminate stuff anyway. There's a little bit here. I probably could get away without putting any clear gesso on there at all, but I am going to. Because I'm going to be using the Distress Crayons, I want there to be some kind of tooth for those crayons to grab onto. And the matte medium may not just be enough, so I am going to go over everything again with that clear gesso, just to be on the safe side. So I'm just going to give it a quick coat, try and get everywhere. Just making sure my fingers don't stick in it. And then I'm going to give it a quick blast with the heat gun, and then we're better safe than sorry. Like I said, probably doesn't need it, but just in case, I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, so I'll drop that in. Heat gun, and let's get it dry. My clear coat of gesso is now completely dry. There's no shine on any of that now, so I'm happy with the base coat of that. So I'm now going to bring in some of my Distress Crayons. Now, to start off, I'm just going to grab those three. So I have Rusty Hinge. I have, of course, the obligatory Vintage Photo, and there's also the Antique Linen. I don't have the full set of the Distress Crayons, mainly because I'm very poor and I can't afford them, but the colours that I do have, these are the first three sets that were ever released. So I'm just going to start adding in some base colour directly onto the art journal page, and I'm just going to blend them in with my finger. I'm not going to add any water at all. So I'm just going to add some colour in there, just particularly in those areas where you can still see the art journal page watercolour base. So just start adding in a little bit of colour. Now there is some texture from the matte medium and the gesso where I put it on quite heavily, so it is pulling that a little. So this is just really to get rid of that stark whiteness that we had to start off with. So that's kind of added that bit of colour into that background. So that'll do for the Antique Linen. And then now for the Rusty Hinge, where I can go and add a little bit more, start adding in that real kind of reddy dark grungy colour, but this time I can bring it into the middle and I can start dividing up and where the pieces overlap. So I'm catching those edges so you can actually see where they are. So very happy with the way that's going on to start off with. And then a little bit under there. Just had that nice kind of grungy, dirty kind of look to it, which is exactly what I want. So it's catching the edges, which is perfect. So without that clear gesso, I don't think this would have grabbed quite so well. I'm going to add some little on the bottom there just to finish off that border, and then add some at the end there, and then just on the edges, just to give it a little bit of continuity. Let's stick some round there. Just trying to get right into the grooves, into the groovy. Right. Build up some of that colour. And there as well. And then start adding in a little bit around his arm. There we go. And then we can add some there, where his collar goes, just on his arm, and a little bit just under the pipe. It gives it a little bit more depth. Okay, so I'm going to put the rusty hinge away. I'm going to clean my finger. So just with a wet wipe, a baby wipe, and then out comes the vintage photo. I really want to start emphasising the darkness along the bottom, around the edges. So I'm particularly paying attention, that's matte medium, to the corners and the outside edges first, just to get that grungy kind of dirty feel. I've not added any water, as you can see. I'm literally just doing it with my finger. I've not rubbed it with a baby wipe or anything. Okay, so I'll now start adding in a little bit in there, dirty it up a bit more. Still want some of those red tones to show through, but I particularly want it to be darker around his head here. And down this side. And then under there. So it's really building up some nice like colour around the edges. Not particularly happy with all that white showing through from the top there. It's too much of a white stark line, and I can't get the crayon right in, so I might have to employ a cotton bud Q-tip. Start bringing in that dirt a bit further. Just literally just building it up, building it up and building it up and building it up. Alright, I'm going to see if I can go find a Q-tip so I can maybe try and get some of that colour into those white edges, because I don't really like them the way they are at the minute. I may have to use a detail paintbrush, who knows. Let me just go see if I can find one. Okay, thank goodness for medicine cabinets, that's all I can say. Right, found a couple, so I'm going to see whether or not I can get, even if it means I have to wet. Now you see that's bringing a lot of it off now, so I didn't want to do that, but it has pushed it, even though it's brought it off from the outside, it has actually pushed it right into the corners, so I can now go back in again. Now that's got rid of it. That looks better. That looks a lot better. Okay. Fabulous piece of kit. You should always have them with you. Let's get a bit more brown in there. That's better. Okay, right. I've got some pops of colour with that red. Throw that old one away. I've got some pops of colour here with that red. And I've also got that ready orangey red from the Rusty Hinge Distress Crayon as well. But I want to add in some other colours. Now we've got some kind of minty greens showing up in his shirt there, which I quite like. I love that colour as a kind of pop of colour. I'm going to try and use some peacock feathers. And I'm going to add in some peacock feather bluish highlights into the page, just to give it a bit of pop. Now, along with that reddy orange, I think it's going to work nicely, because it's going to react and create a bit of a greeny colour, which I think is going to act quite nicely. See how it's started to tone in. Just slightly drag my finger down. Yeah, look. That is looking pretty nice. I'm liking that. Yeah, definitely liking the look. With that nice kind of peacocky bluey green pulling out the colour. In that background. Liking that a lot. Now, there's a bit more colour in there. A bit more up here. I want a bit more striking. A bit darker, a bit more striking. Maybe add a little bit of that blue just there, just to tone it in, just to help to kind of balance it all together. Now what is missing is white. So let me put that to one side. And I'm going to just clean off my finger. And this definitely needs some white splashes. Definitely needs some white splashes. So I'm going to add the white splashes before I even add those alpha chips. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a quick clean, just get rid of the remnants of that Distress Crayon and also some of that matte medium and gesso that's hung over from the last time I cleaned. Just give that a quick dry. So I now want to grab some white acrylic paint. So what we got? Titanium white. Yes. And I need some water, some clean water, and a small fan brush. So I'll just go and grab that and I'll be right back. I have my titanium white, I've got my fan brush, which has seen better days. I do have a new one somewhere. I haven't taken out the packet yet. Oh, there it is, actually. Let's see. No, I have taken it out of the packet. There you go. Brand new fan brush. Not going to use it though. Okay, so pot of water at journal page. Let's get some paint mixed up and let's get some splashes added. So clean water. So consistency of milk, and then let's start adding. Now whether or not I don't know whether or not, I should say, whether the Distress Crayon is going to react. Cluster down there in the corner. It should react with the paint and it should tone it down a little. So it should start pulling through into that paint. It started doing it down here already. You can see, I don't know whether you can see that. Some of those white splatters have started to tint with that Distress Crayon, so it's going to react with that Distress Crayon, pull the colour through, and it's going to tone down that starkness of the white. That's the plan. That's all I'm going to do with those splashes. I'm going to leave those as they are. I'm not going to clean that up because I want to use the white paint again in a second. So I'm going to just grab my heat gun, give this a quick blast, and then I'll be back when it's dry. So now those white splashes have dried, they have actually stayed a lot whiter than I thought they would, so they've not reacted too much with that Distress Crayon in the background, so happy about that. Okay, so I've got an old, this is a hotel account card, no longer works. This is from a few years ago, but I didn't throw it away. So I'm just going to grab some of that white paint and I'm going to make some white lines just on the journal page, just to give it a little bit of a suggestion. Construction. And then I'm going to do the same over here. Almost like a grid pattern. Just a hint. It's also doubling up as a kind of faint border pattern. How's that? Don't answer that. Right, let's get that cleaned off. And then I can put that away for use on another day. And then we can clean up the remainder of that white paint, which I'm not going to use. Let's get that dry, and I will be right back. Everything's now dry enough for me to be able to add on my quote or my page title. So to do that, I'm going to use the Tombow Mono Aqua liquid glue, and I'm going to start with the last letter. Now, mainly because the last letter placement is the one that gives me the placement for all of the rest. So I have already tested this out when I was working out the layout for the page. So I know that if I put the E there, that the rest of my quote is going to fit, because I want it to fit in a particular way. So I can now start working backwards with all of the letters. So again, this is going to be like watching paint dry for you, so I'm going to go ahead and pop on some more music and then let you watch me sticking down the letters one by one. Again, I'll just pop it onto probably double speed. Okay, so that is the letter, or the last letter, stuck down. And I think that fits rather lovely. I like the placement. I like the fact that the blocks are all put together. And so I now just need to leave that to grab and hold and dry for a couple of minutes. So I'm going to do that. In fact, I'm going to go put the kettle on, make myself a nice hot drink of coffee, and then I will be right back. So, coffee made. Letters all stuck down. Perfect timing. So, oh dear, that serves me right. Okay, so the last thing for me to do then is just to sign and date it. And I'm going to do that by using the Uniball Signo Broad White Opaque rollerball pen. So literally what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to do it in this corner here. Now sometimes this doesn't write on the Distress crayon, so I'm going to do it very lightly over here. Yeah, I didn't think it would write on that, but it's pretty much there, and I can always go back over it. That's better. So that's it. I'm calling this art journal page done.